And take it away.
Okay, so you can see my screen?
Yes.
All right, let me know if I'm echoing so I can turn down the volume on I can mute my volume if I need to. All right, so my name is Mark Greninger. I am the Geographic Information Officer for the County of Los Angeles, and I'm actually coming to you live from Palm Springs, so it's taking a little time off from my time off. So yeah, I wanted to focus today on collaboration in LA County and actually how the parcel file has kind of been a driving force for that and helped out a lot. So, I've been at GIO since 2006. So there's been a lot of changes in my time, and we'll go ahead and go through some of those. So, kind of starting with where we were, and people who are on the line will definitely understand this. So when I started at the county back in 2001, became the GIO 5 years later, GIS data was fragmented and in silos. We actually had a data sales team to sell our data, and that went to a lot of private vendors who then go ahead and resell it. We had a GIS advisory body, kind of a GIS committee that was established in the 1990s to try to push collaboration, but that kind of fell apart in the early 2000s. So the question at that point is kind of why? Well, one of the reasons was that there's kind of a lack of trust. The county sold data to itself. So if you were a county department and you weren't the assessor, you'd actually have to purchase the parcel data from the assessor. And at that point, for other cities as well, parcels were sold for $1 per parcel, and we have 2.4 million parcels. So that was quite a high cost for those cities. The data transfer mechanisms were obviously, we didn't have fast internet back then. Maybe you had a DVD, or you would sneaker something over to somebody that you knew, so that didn't work out as well. And then, so we ran into issues where cities really didn't trust the county. They didn't want to pay the $1 per parcel per year, so they went and developed their own systems, which wasn't that effective. So we had duplicate development, so that kind of had problems. So, but that's kind of where we were. So things I'd say began to change. Now the one thing is within GIS, and this is not the assessors mapping group, which you'll hear from Garo later. They always were very open, very collaborative, but there wasn't really anything that would kind of push that. And then in October 2005, the Attorney General released an opinion that the parcel data in a GIS format is public record. So what LA County's assessor did, which started to change everything, was that it lowered its prices in line with that opinion. So it's just the cost of duplication. So instead of being $2.4 million, it was now $335. So that was a 7,000-fold decrease in cost. And so at that point, the parcel information became quite open, and also within the county, the assessor started to release the data at no cost to other county departments. So I think one of the focus that I want to bring to today's discussion is, how that benefited everybody, but also turned around and benefited the assessor themselves. So making data more available actually benefits those departments that actually have valuable information that can, that they provide out. Because over time, there are benefits that accrue back to that department. It's not in terms of money anymore, but in terms of other things, especially in terms of trust, collaboration, and people willing to work together. So last year was kind of the final, nail in the coffin for data sales, which was that the Supreme Court ruled that GIS data is actually public record. So the parcel information and a lot of the geographic data that we actually maintain, and Gara can tell you about how that's done, which I think will be a good segue, is actually public. And then the focus then is that GIS data becomes part of your business process. It's not an additional burden to a department. It's something that they maintain as part of their daily operations. So there's no, that's part of the public record. So, as I was saying, I see this as sort of a paradigm shift, and also seeing the value of GIS in general. GIS data used to be kind of seen as a cost burden, but it's actually now basically a government asset, and it's actually most valuable, and this is where we're moving now, is when it's actually open and freely available. So collaboratively sharing information provides benefits back, and selling data, one thing that we found, didn't actually recover the cost of the data itself, of creating that information. So that model really doesn't work, and people will do whatever they can to get their hands on it, even sneaky ways to do that. So that doesn't really help. It really has an impact upon the ability of other county agencies to do the business that they need to do. So that's always a problem. Now understand that we're all, as GIS practitioners, we're probably all on this page. We understand that we love for GIS data to be available, but there's always that question of how do you recover the cost of actually maintaining it? So especially back when the assessor was starting to move to GIS, it was not an inexpensive cost to do this. GIS was an expensive technology. The staffing was expensive. So it was a major investment. So it's, the data sales was the simplest way to try to quantify the value of that information, but using collaboration and opening information is more of a cost avoidance for other agencies within a jurisdiction. So that becomes harder to justify, but that's where the shift from what the assessor or what the Supreme Court has ruled has definitely played a big role in helping that. And also the value takes time to kind of germinate. Initially, it may be that it's seen as just a net loss, but over time, these benefits will accrue back. So I'll walk through some of these for you. So around the same time that the Attorney General ruled on public data, the LA County started to look at a collaboratively acquiring imagery, which is a high cost product. So in 2004, 2005, the county started reaching out to departments, cities, and agencies to share these costs for acquiring imagery. There was a fair amount of reluctance. It was definitely, the regional planning department, along with the assessor and public works, had acquired some imagery back in 2002 and 2003, but they thought that there would be benefit to doing this collaboratively. But there was reluctance because of the history of sharing. The fact is that would this information and would the support be there for the agencies? So county departments were somewhat reluctant. Cities and agencies did the same thing. They didn't trust the county. But again, the assessor had just kind of broken the mold and made its data available at a lower cost. And so I think the cities and agencies started to see that there was a shift going on within the county to playing more to play more effectively with the agencies that were out there. So that was a big change. So I know that after a year or so, a few departments came in. There were 3 or 4. The assessor was one of them. I think their cost for that was about $600,000. Same thing for public works. Regional planning was around $300,000. So there were a number of departments that funded that, but there weren't that many. There were 4 or 5. We have 30 departments in the county. So, but it started to change everything, especially because it worked, because data was delivered to our partner cities, so the 20 to 30 partner cities and the 4 or 5 departments. That information was delivered. There was a lot of support that came from that project. I came in at the very end of that project and gauged that it had been a success. So we followed up with LARIAC 2, LARIAC 3, and LARIAC 4. So what we've been able to do is each round we get more participants. And that's kind of this concept of having programs and information available has enabled us to build credibility and trust over time. So cities will actually think that, this information will be there in the future. And so this is not a one-time shot. So basically by collaborating, each participant gets more information, more data, better data, and it's less expensive. So we basically, we've estimated that in the first 3 rounds, we saved the county, just the county, about $10 million in acquiring this information. So again, we're bringing in agencies that we've never really worked with before. And also that imagery became a platform collaboration because what's the first thing that folks really want to see on the imagery is the property data. So both by having the imagery available and then also the parcels available on top of that as a download initially, that was seen as a benefit. Now what's happened since that time especially with the costs of server technology and deployment continuing to go down, is that the county provides, as part of LARIAC, not just access to the imagery on a hard disk, but we provide it as a service, an ESRI REST service, like a web image service. We also provide the parcel information as a service as well to those cities, and that information is then updated every single week. And the reason, that makes a lot of sense, because we as the county have to do that for our internal purposes. So to turn around and allow external entities to access that is a very, very low cost for us relative to what it would cost those cities to do it themselves. So again, that doesn't get massive adoption right away, but in the first couple of times that we asked cities if they wanted to have that as a service, they really weren't that interested. But that interest continues to grow because it makes their work faster. They can build applications much more rapidly. They get higher quality information, and they don't need to spend the weeks and months and dollars to actually process that information. So again, it's a platform for collaboration as well, because now we have other entities that are using our information. And so the benefit of opening it up has really grown. So to be more precise, inside of the county, and this is how this benefits back to the assessor, is that we established an enterprise GIS program. So this is kind of the starting point. Once we have LARIAC data, well, how do you deploy it? So every single department would actually have to store that data themselves, work with their own IT sections to store that, sometimes terabytes of data, acquire those systems. Well, we built a single central GIS repository where we stored our imagery and then parcels and all of our other information. We made it accessible. We also acquire data when necessary as part of this program. And LARIAC is one of those acquisitions. So we acquire imagery data, we require demographic data, business information, street line networks and things like that. And we also add systems and servers to host those services and host applications. We have standard development tools to reduce the cost of building those. And so tools that are built by one department can be reused. So from the initial 4 or 5 departments, now this has grown to be 22 departments that are part of this program. And basically every single department in the county that uses GIS helps fund this program. And the benefit back to the assessor, if we look back, the assessor has loaded its information into that system. Well, the cost to the assessor, which was $600,000 for the imagery at first, are now down to $330,000. So that's a huge, it's a cost savings to them. And that's because by putting all this information and collaborating, they're able to, leverage all of the funding that is coming from other departments. So kind of like what LARIAC does for imagery among agencies, is by collaborating and putting information together, we actually put it out. We actually make a benefit to all of the departments as well. An example of that is the Parcel service that was developed not for the assessor or by the assessor, but it was built by the enterprise program as a benefit to all county departments. So the assessor has never actually had to build that application. They've provided the information, provided in-kind services, but they've never had to buy servers, and build those applications and build the services themselves. And they're able to leverage that for the applications that they're building. So I think Garo may show you a couple of those. So that's really a valuable piece. The imagery is available to them. They're leveraging all of the different tools, and again at lower cost, and so making their job more easier and also more cost effective. So collaboration has definitely been a big driver. Having a central repository where we put all of this information. So currently what happens is that the assessor pushes a parcel change to our central repository once a week, along with the relevant attribute information. Then the GIS program has built some tools that automatically combine that information, push it to our publication platform, update our parcel services, as well as the parcel cache, which is the cache map service, which is really high speed, so that this information can then be pushed out to the public, pushed internal to applications, and be made available to whoever needs it. again, built on those same requirements that the assessor has for sharing. So that's definitely been a real benefit. And one of the hidden pieces, like any department, many IT organizations are never, the GIS folks are never big fans of their IT organization. So having a dedicated GIS infrastructure has made the life of the assessor GIS folks a lot easier, I believe, as well. So in terms of licensing and understanding what the needs are. So moving forward, but one of the issues we have this repository, but how do we let our staff and stakeholders know all of the information that we have? One of the things that we've run into is over time is that we realize that different departments are managing the same information. We used to have 4 different city boundary files managed around the county. How do we make these internal application development faster, better, find out which data is most valuable? And also, how do we prove that we want to share information? So that's actually where we started with the LA County Data Portal. It was just kind of a simple concept, where people are calling us up, asking us for information. They're asking us where data is. Well, why not, especially if it's publicly available, why not just put it in a single location? So that's where the data portal was put together. So this is basically what it looks like. I'll give a quick demonstration of it in a second. But it's where we post a lot of our information. The key thing for me, though, is that I didn't want to create just another data portal because there's plenty of those. The key to me is that we use an open source blog platform called WordPress that enables us to link our data and as we post information out to Google. So Google crawls this actively and it's set up to be crawled. So if you type in any data for LA County, actually our portal will come up very, very quickly. It'll be some of the top hits because it's so integrated into the outside world. So that gives us a lot of benefits in terms of making our data discoverable and accessible. On the back end, we can track the uses. So you can see that a couple of years ago we've actually just crossed 545,000 views in the past since we started 3 years ago. You can see how the use of this and the access has grown from about 10,000 hits a month. Now we can peak at over 25,000 hits a month. On a daily basis, that equates to, during the week, over 1,200 to 1,500 hits a day. I never thought that a GIS data portal would actually be of this interest to folks. There's some other really powerful tools that are in here that allow us to track which data sets are most requested, most downloaded. If I send this to my board of supervisors, I can basically explain to them how valuable GIS technology is to the public out there. So some of the other benefits that we have is that this is a platform for sharing our information. So, while it's great for the outside world, actually internally, the data portal has become quite valuable because now information is discoverable within the county. So, for example, if there's a department that is releasing an RFP for some new application, well, all of the vendors that are going to bid on this project will know that there is information available, and then they can actually reduce the cost of their quotes and prices because they know this information already exists and it doesn't need to be created. It's a great platform for distribution. We used to have 4 or 5 different portals. We have a single portal that can be shared and searched through. And also the standardization of distribution, because we have a single method for distribution. Well, now what we're starting to see is that some automated tools are being built that can automatically pull data out of our repository and make it available. So you only need one method, you only need to build this once. And of course, from the outside world, we get many fewer data requests because the information is already available to folks. So that's really critical, and that's obviously a benefit to most of the departments out there. They spend less time digging through their data files, well, because there's already something out there. So the key thing is moving forward, actually, let me go ahead and I'll briefly show you what the data portal looks like. This is the back end of the system. You can see that on a daily basis. We can see, Monday, February 24th, we have 1,100 views. Monday the 3rd, we have 1,400 views. What's really powerful about this as well is we can go down and see what people were typing into search engines like Google to find our site, coastal zone boundary, Los Angeles Congressional District. We can see what they've clicked on, LA City Council District, service planning areas, what data, what they clicked on the most, and actually which links they actually clicked on. What's also powerful about this system is that people can actually register on our site, and as we publish new information, they will be updated with that information. So again, what's really powerful, if I typed in Los Angeles, GIS, data, parcels, right, you can actually see that the #1 link is actually from our LA County data. And here, the top 3 links are actually coming off of our systems. You go to the LA County Assessor Parcels, and there it is. So that actually is quite powerful, and people can just search it right in the way that they normally do. So let me go ahead and go back to this. All right. Okay, it's coming up.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Real quick, because there's a few questions came in, but there was a question that was, I think, appropriate right here. It says, is the data portal all public facing, or is there an internal secure portion only for county use?
It's all public facing.
Okay. I'm gonna mute then and let you continue.
So what we do is not all of the data that's listed in the portal is available for download. So there are some there are some data sets that are for official use only, but we still list them there, and we just state that they're for internal use only, because what we don't want to have happen is a department goes ahead and starts to rebuild a data set that already exists somewhere else. So we want to reduce that duplication. So we will say, we have it, but sorry, we can't give it to you. But what I found, if you're an outside agency, just knowing that the information exists, perhaps you have an existing relationship with the county, so you can actually get that information. So it's a pointer in a lot of cases. So moving back to the topic, so the fact that we started to collaborate on LARIAC and the fact that the assessor releasing the parcels kind of changed this impression that folks had of the county, meant that that initial collaboration is leading to more collaboration. So we're building a countywide address management system to work with our cities to manage our addresses collaboratively. We're building a location management system for managing our points of interest. We're building data applications off of these systems that can be embedded into other agency applications. And we're starting to collaborate with the federal agencies on the National Hydrography data set. So, the more you collaborate, the more you collaborate. It's kind of an interesting situation. And so, this is kind of the way GIS data is. Having one GIS data set in a repository isn't that useful. When you add another one and another one, the more information that you put together in a single location, the value grows exponentially. So that's what we've seen with collaboration as well. And what I'm also starting to see is that we're aligning, and GIS is kind of a little bit out in the forefront, is actually there's this governmental move towards open data. But so it's not just the GIS data. So right now we have our LA County GIS data portal. What we're starting to look toward is the LA County data portal. So all information, so things like our employment records, our financials, all of these things are, this is this paradigm shift that we're seeing out there. You hear a lot about open data, big data. Well, GIS is kind of leading that charge in a lot of ways. And if you look at data.gov, that's an example that's out there as well. So, there's this move towards making information more available. And obviously, I think that we in the GIS world see that as extremely valuable. The question is always, how do you do that in an effective and cost-effective and sustainable manner? But I think that this paradigm of silos is breaking down. A lot of it does, fortunately, have to do with the fact that the technology is becoming less expensive and more effective, and we can deliver content more easily. It's less of a burden on us. We don't need to send an analyst out to load data sets for people, but we can just make our information available. So I think the collaborative approaches to both maintaining and sharing information is it really brings a lot of benefit. The citizens see value in that, and there's a lot of really powerful tool sets and capabilities that are coming off of this, off the fact that information is becoming more available. And I think that when you look at what Garo is going to show about parcel capabilities and parcel searching, those tools can be turned either internal or external very rapidly now, and you don't need to have these closed systems as much. So with that, thank you. I'll be around at the CalGIS conference, so you can always catch up with me.
Well, thank you, Mark. We really appreciate it. Interesting stuff going on there. Okay, let me real quick switch over. I'm going to change presenter. We'll ask some questions here.
If there are any questions.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we let Garo go, and then we'll kind of bundle up the questions real quick at the end for both of you. Real quick,
Okay.
Before anybody leaves here, I know we're going to start getting into the lunch hour, and we don't want too many people to miss out, but we want to make sure that everybody knows that the state GIS user group meeting at CalGIS is open to everybody, and that all of these webinars are recorded and linked on the calgis.org website after this is all done. And with that, Mark, I'm going to turn your camera off and your mic off for right now. And Garo, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can see you. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, Mark took me back to the 90s, late 1990s, 1999 to be exact. The assessor finally finished compiling all the line work from the county and other major contributing cities, and we put together our first GIS parcel base. It was about 2 million parcels then. Now it grew to 2.4 million parcels. We update that parcel base every minute. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what we use GIS for. And Emilio is the guy who's supposed to do the presentation. He's the chief engineer. I'm the assistant chief engineer. We've been pushing for GIS, and hopefully the department is little by little willing to listen more and more. So I want to talk about a little bit of our parcel database, what we use it for, cadastral mapping, which is our bread and butter, some new developments that are coming in the pipeline, and some demonstrations. Up until last year, we used to house our entire database here in-house. Last year, like Mark mentioned, we used EGIS powerful servers, and it was free for us. It was a great idea, and we moved it there. Now it gets backed up more frequently, and everyone's a lot smoother. We have 40 engineers. 25 of them are in the editing business, some are in the checking business. We use, of course, version geodatabase so they can do editing at the same time. We have our parcels. We prepare manufactured home parcels as well, marinas, leases, major properties for business location, tax rate area maps, assessor district, regions, cluster maps. And the replication, as it says, it's on a weekly basis. Mark mentioned that, with the exception of the Department of Public Works. Us and them, they are our partners. We work on the same exact land base. That means any engineer in the assessor department would be updating a new track map. At the same moment, somebody from Public Works will be working or seeing that exact track map come live. Our bread and butter is assessor maps. That's what we use GIS for mainly. So the line work in our GIS parcel fabric is being used as a backdrop here to add all the other information, street names, parcel numbers, lot numbers, tract names, so forth, to create the assessor maps. And all our maps are done currently in automated format, even though we still have about 60,000 or so manual maps. We try to push for GIS. So part of the educating the rest of our department, mainly our appraisers, was, hey, what can we do for you? And here's one thing we thought about. Manufactured homes. Those are taxed as a personal property. They don't get a regular tax bill. but our appraisers never had a map to show those mobile home parks. And in fact, when they came to us as, okay guys, can you prepare some maps for us? And we told them, yeah. And I saw one of the notes of the appraisers regarding one of the mobile homes, and it said literally, and I'm not joking, I went to the site 3 times, got attacked by the dogs every time. Good luck to the next appraisal. We start preparing maps for them, and they will notice that, hey, some of these parcels or mobile homes were never parcelized, never taxed. So yes, we help them actually even capture more value to the county. Another application that we use is for our major properties. We created field book maps for them. It makes it very easy for the major property appraisers to go out in the field and see actually where they are. This is a major project we've been working on for the past 2 years, cluster maps. And this is how our appraisers know where to work. Their jobs are assigned by clusters, and believe it or not, up until now, there were no cluster maps. So there was various assignments that were made to different appraisers to the same area, or same appraiser goes to different parts of town without knowing exactly where we're going. Now we have exact maps showing that cluster boundary, so appraisers know exactly what areas are assigned to them. We are working on new developments as well. This is in the pipeline. Some mobile home applications that you're seeing online. None of them are exactly 100% ready to go, but we're definitely working on them, and they will be enhanced as we go. And Emilio is the major guy who works on these developments. Another major one that's coming up is the study of fair market value. Assessor is required to have a roll prediction every year to the Board of Supervisors. And 2-3 months ago, we met with Esri. We went to Esri's site and we talked to the developers about maybe creating a new program that will help our appraisers come up with better geostatistical analytical information and data. And that is also in the works. We have not finalized the results yet, but it's definitely something huge that could be used statewide. In fact, the entire United States can use it. Anybody who knows GIS or uses GIS could be using this development. Can do maybe a couple of applications. I think most people are familiar with pictometry, so I'll probably stick with a parcel viewer. This was developed in-house by our chief, Emilio Solano, and it is available currently only for our appraisers. And by the way, before I even go there, I want to show you one little thing here. We have this application called PCDL, and it's a parcel change. Every time the parcel gets changed, it grabs attributes from our geodatabase and populates the legal description field, so our guys don't have to write legal descriptions anymore. We formulated it. It's a great use of GIS and a SQL application right there. Our parcel viewer is also fine on here. There it is. We can just go to any parcel. And you can add your property data information as much as you want. So you see there's a slew of information for our appraisers to use. You can add exemption, valuation, ownership, anything you want could be here. This application also allows us, look at this, the building outline. This is what Mark was talking about earlier. I remember I was in a meeting many, many moons ago, and the company wanted $1 million to provide these building outlines, and now we get them free as part of the partners of GIS. We can calculate parcels, we can draw polygons, we can calculate areas. Last week I got my first ever email from an appraiser who actually calculated an area, and he goes, "Wow, you know, I think this area is wrong." So I was particularly proud of them. So you can do your calculations and just click on any shape and draw a parcel and go from there. That's pretty much what I have now. So I'm open to any questions if you guys have any. And
Okay.
you guys take it from here.
Okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna turn Mark's mic back on. Let me ask you a quick question. Actually, I'm gonna mute Mark's mic for just a moment while I talk here. Quick question for you, Garo. What do you use, or what kind of software basis do you use for the management of your parcel data? So, in other words, how do you sit down there in the Esri software and draw the boundaries? Is there any kind of third-party product that you have for the management of the parcel maps?
Believe it or not, none. It's out of the box from Esri. We did minor enhancements in-house, but we do not use any third-party software. It's all Esri's 10.2. All our engineers use 10.2 now. And that's pretty much good enough for us to develop everything we need.
Okay. Mark, on the back end of this, do you work at all with the maintenance of any of their parcel mapping applications? Oops, hang on a second, Mark. I forgot to turn your mic back on. Okay.
The maintenance of the parcels is completely handled inside of the assessor. But in terms of the applications themselves, we're leveraging Latitude Geographics as a application development platform. So we have a parcel search application that we make available internal because it includes owner information. So that is an application that we do I do support through the Enterprise GIS program.
Okay. Garo, question for you: How many people does the assessor's office have working on parcel and mapping and editing?
We have 39 engineers to be exact. That includes Emilio and I. So Emilio and I are basically managing 37 other engineers.
And you mentioned...
Of them,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, 25 of them are actually doing the editing, and we have a group that about 8 or 9 are verify, check all the work that's done in GIS, and some supervisors.
Okay. You said that you have parcels that are being edited by all these people, and also people are seeing it in Public Works. What do you use as the back end to manage the? Do you use versioned editing out of SDE, or what do you use for the management of the multiple viewer?
Yeah, it is SDE version, and each engineer has his own or her own version. Yes, it is definitely SDE.
Somebody from the Department of Public Works at the county commented a little bit earlier during Mark's presentation that the LA County Surveyor experienced similar gains in efficiency and data availability just by putting their scanned records online for free to the public.
That is correct. That is correct. I was part of the complaining group, and I was talking to a gentleman named Austin Marino who used to go with us to our SoCal GIS group. And I kept asking us, when are you going to have those maps available online? So they started many moons ago, and they scanned every single track map, parcel map, miscellaneous record, and it's available on their website. It's a great accomplishment.
Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions. Does anybody else have any questions? It looks like right now that that hits the... I think people are getting ready to go out to lunch right now. So I do appreciate both of you participating today. We had about...
Jeff, can I add?
Oh, sure.
Jeff, are you there?
Yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing. So, the Public Works Department and assessor had gone off and managed their information completely separately for many years. And again, by making the information available, what happened last year was that they actually moved onto the shared platform to manage this information together. And that was I think a huge outcome of the fact that the information was, again, available to both sides and each side was able to realize, oh, there's efficiencies to be had by working together on this. So that changed kind of a whole mentality of who had the better data, which has always been a kind of a battle between public works and assessment for many years. So that's been really, really a great outcome as well.
Okay. Well, I have to say that I was the GIS lead for Kern County for a number of years. And the one thing we found was by far the most requested data set that was the most valuable to people was the parcel data. And we found that there was a number of cases where the county of Kern, kind of anecdotally, but you can go back and prove that just making that data available to the public more than paid for itself several times over in the maintenance, increased economic development paid, increased taxes that more than covered the cost of any parcel maintenance. So thank you so much. Once again, to everybody who's still online, if there's any other questions, I will get them to you later. I'm going to turn my camera back on and get myself, the presenter, back. Once again, to everybody who's still around, before you head out to lunch, remember CalGIS, get registered to the conference. You'll be receiving a survey shortly after this ends. It's just a few questions. We're just trying to find out the usefulness of these webinars. We also are going to take everybody's name who's registered for a webinar over the past 7 months, and we're going to throw them in the hat and do a drawing. And if you happen to be at the conference and your name is drawn out of the hat for these things, we're going to have a gift for you. So we appreciate your participation. Remember the GeoDev meetup on Sunday night of the conference. And don't forget that on Monday, this dinner that the Cannery Road Brewing Company should be a fun time for everybody who's involved. And that's going to be sponsored and hosted by Mapbox that night. We also have our Tuesday evening events will be hosted by some of our vendors who will be at the conference. And we just really appreciate everybody's involvement. We'll see what happens with these webinars. It's possible that we will continue them later on this year after the CalGIS conference, but we'll have to make a little determination on who's involved with that. And for one last thing, because my company's paid for all this technology all the way, buy Halos. So with that being said, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you.